Many F1 fans have been drawn to the sport by the hit Netflix series Drive to Survive, and while you do get a taste of the drama on screen, the show doesn't really take you through the paces of what to look for in an F1 race, or during an F1 weekend for that matter. And if you don't know what to pay attention to, then you're missing out on a ton of drama that's playing out live during a race weekend. So today I'll be giving you a beginner's guide to F1, and by the end you'll be hopefully able to understand what makes F1 so special and the format of it all, so it gels together. Despite each race taking place in a different country, the format is generally the same. The race weekend has practice sessions, qualifying, and a race on Sunday. But before we get into that, let's look at the drivers. There are 2 drivers for each of the 10 teams, and despite what some team principals might tell you, yes, one of those drivers is a primary driver and the other is a secondary. The team principal prioritizes parts and engineering to their primary driver, who's most likely to be the fastest and win them the most points throughout the course of the entire season. The dynamics of this are a little strange, so it's probably better served in a different video. And as for the teams, you may be shocked to hear they're not exactly competing against one another. That's worth repeating. While yes, the teams are technically racing against each other, they're actually trying to beat other teams within their respective groups. Formula One teams are unofficially split up into, let's call it tiers. Not like the tax return kind, like the level kind. And that's how their success is measured. Their ability to win against teams within their appropriate tier. The wealthiest and most advanced top tier teams compete against one another. The midfield against the midfield and the lowest tier against the lowest tier. Because by the end of the race, the slowest car could be a full minute behind the fastest car. Not exactly an exciting race event for them. But they also just might be 1 second behind the second slowest car. And that's who they're competing against. That's how they measure success, and that's how you are supposed to be watching it. Just a reminder, I'm giving you guys just wave top F1 information, and I can delve into some of these topics in a later video. But a large contributor for the vast difference between the performance of the top and the lowest tier teams is their car development within the confines of the formula. I mean, it is called Formula One for a reason. Ever asked yourself, what the heck is a formula? Well, I'm going to tell you. The easiest way to explain it is it's the opposite of NASCAR and IndyCar. A governing body creates criteria, and the teams have to work within that criteria to manufacture their own car. They're building them, and so they're all slightly different. Well, some are more similar than others. In IndyCar, teams are forced to select one of 2 engine manufacturers. In F1, it's whoever creates the best one that the team can afford. So Ferrari, a top tier team, makes engines for Ferrari and sells a slower version, perhaps last year's engine, to Alfa Romeo, a bottom tier team. Williams uses Mercedes, Red Bull uses Honda, etc. Now, extend that sort of thing across all parts of an F1 car, and you get cars that look and perform differently. But since they're all conforming to the given formula, they're going to retain similar sizes and shapes and characteristics. As for Formula 2, the restrictions are slightly different, as the format of the race is different and the financials are different as well. But they're going to look similar to Formula 1 cars. The one being that it's the premier level of auto racing, the tippity top of the mountain, and they're literally only halfway up. Okay, now let's talk about the race weekend. You've been talking to your friends and coworkers and being like, hey, did you guys see Drive to Survive? I'm totally watching F1 this weekend. And they're all like, no, we're not cool. We watch crusty old PGA golf instead of live because we hate fun and puppies. And you can be all like, well, I'll be watching FP sessions, qualifying, and the race. And then they'll all be like super impressed with your F1 knowledge and abandon their boring weekend plans and enjoy you in friendship bliss. And if you love friendship bliss, you'll love this channel because I'm all about some hanging out with friends and watching F1 together. Just check out the description below for a link to my F1 Fans of DC watch parties, and throw a like and subscribe my way. Actually, if you'd like to see what one of our watch parties is like, leave a comment below. Let me know if you'd like to see that, and I can do a video on it whenever. I think you'll be surprised, actually. And follow me on Twitter at Formula Kickass to stay current on what's going on between my uploads. And if an F1 team wants to kick ass, it too needs to make the most of its 3 practice sessions. So, let's talk about the race weekend. It kicks off with free practice sessions 1 and 2 on Friday, followed by free practice 3 on Saturday morning, then qualifying in the afternoon, and the race on Sunday. The practice sessions are used to test equipment and car configurations, as well as to allow drivers to get the feel for the track, learn where their braking points are, and figure out how this year's car will perform. because they're not going to race on this track again until a full year later. That's going to be a lot of cartooning going on in response to gathering data on track. These teams are going to be running practice programs. That is to say, on-track simulations for tire wear, fuel consumption, qualifying pace, etc. So you are supposed to be watching the results of each program if you know what they are, because they won't always disclose them. And these sessions explain to you how you're supposed to watch the race on Sunday. They're also preparing solutions to problems that the entire grid is likely to encounter, like weather or changes to the track layout. But Saturday's FP3 will absolutely include the qualifying program, so watch the leaderboards there. And pro tip, watch and see if some of the teams are sandbagging during their qualifying programs in FP3. They do this sometimes to fake out their opponents into thinking they're much slower than they really are. It happens. When it comes to Saturday's qualifying, it's pretty straightforward. It's 3 sessions of knockout rounds within about the space of an hour. In Q1, all 20 cars are on track, putting in their fastest laps. The slowest 5 cars are knocked out and ranked in order. Then there's a short break. Q2 begins. Now there are only 15 cars on track. Once again, the slowest 5 are knocked out. Another short break. Then in Q1, the final 10 cars are put to their fastest laps, with the results of all the qualifying rounds combined together to create the starting grid for Sunday's race. Occasionally, F1 will do what they call sprint races, in addition to qualifying in Sunday's race. But this isn't a normal format. They do take place on Saturdays, but it's something else entirely different. It's something F1 has been experimenting with just the past couple of years. I'm not sure if it's going to be around much longer. We'll find out. Definitely something for another video. Now, on to the big day. Where it all counts, Sunday's race. Unlike a lot of other types of auto racing, F1 begins from a standing start after all 5 red lights go out. Standing starts can be very dangerous as drivers are wrestling for position and going into the first turn with cold tires that don't offer any grip. Consequently, the medical car follows the pack on the first lap to provide immediate medical assistance in case something unforeseen happens. And it does happen. As I'm sure you've seen in Drive to Survive, pit stops play a critical role in a team's race strategy. During the race, the driver is required to pit and change compounds at least one time. A driver just can't go the whole race with the same compounded tire he started the race with. For example, a driver that started on softs can pit for a fresh set of softs, but he's going to have to pit again for a different compound like medium or hards, or face a penalty. When you're watching F1 on TV, you're going to want to pay attention to the pit strategies. This is very important as even a team with the slower car can gain pace due to a well-timed pit strategy, like an undercut or an overcut. I've done videos on those in the past. I'll try and put a link in the description. You guys can check them out. If you want more videos like that, let me know. When it comes to the on-track battles, you're watching for the cars to enter the drag reduction system zone, or DRS zone. In this section of the track, a car within 1 second of the car in front of it is allowed to open its rear wing to reduce drag and assist them in making an overtake. It's very effective when combined with their electric boost from their energy recovery system, or ERS. Most overtakes occur in the DRS zone, but not all. Drivers that can manage their tires and adapt to changing track conditions will usually be making overtakes no matter what, DRS zone or not, and whoever gets to the finish line first wins. So we covered the drivers, the teams, performance, format, practice, qualifying, the race, overtaking, pit stops, and now you're an F1 pro and will surely be loved by all. Strangers will buy you drinks, you'll be showered with gifts, songs will be sung in your name, promotions at work even, all because of your newly learned F1 knowledge. Now, go forth, kick ass, and I'll see you in the next one.